get in charge one more time. I mean, they were talking about cracking down on hate speech online. Like, that free speech is not hate speech. That Tim Walz guy was actually saying that.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Hate speech. Free speech does not include hate speech. Like, what are you, by whose definition? Yours? A guy who thinks tampons should be in the boys' room?
After it's born.
Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Look, I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, getting engaged, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate.
From 2015 to 2023, which was the date Tim Walz repealed the law requiring life-saving care, 24 babies were born alive in Minnesota after an attempted abortion.
What if the man leading your state was a master of deception, a politician whose every public statement hid a dark secret, and whose policies were driving your home into chaos? This isn't a fictional thriller, it's the shocking reality of Minnesota under Governor Tim Walz, a leader so perplexing, so seemingly out of touch, that he's been dubbed Minnesota's very own political IKEA chair. Wobbly, overpriced, and somehow still falling apart despite being brand new every time he opens his mouth. But this time, two of the most incisive voices in media, Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly, didn't just critique, they delivered an absolute no-holds-barred roast, tearing down his entire agenda and exposing a hidden truth that has left the state reeling. Prepare to have your perceptions shattered as we delve into the chaos, the contradictions, and the bewildering decisions of a governor whose every move triggers another locked door, another smoke alarm, and one more reason Minnesotans pretend they're from Wisconsin. This is the unmasking Minnesota didn't know it needed, but absolutely deserves.
Part of this gang of ne'er-do-well criminals. And the whole movie, you know that there is a big boogeyman lurking named Kaiser Soze. And Kevin Spacey's character gets dragged into the police station early on, and they are really tough on him. They start questioning him. Chaz Palminteri does a great job of cross-examining him. And at the end of the movie, you find out that this guy doesn't have the limp he pretended to have, doesn't have like a bent hand that he pretended to have, that he's perfectly fine. He struts off into the sunset, and we learn he was the bad guy all along. And I have to tell you, Mark, that is how I'm feeling today about Tim Walz. This guy scares me.
If that Tim Walz guy got into power, like if Kamala died and Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, was president, you know how crazy this country would be? That weirdo who puts tampons in the boys' room. And what about our Joy? Like, he's a complete pathological liar. Like a complete liar. Lied about being in Tiananmen Square. Lied about being a head coach of a football team.
I thought some of that was just weird and how avoidable it was.
100% avoidable, but pathological liars. People that are habitual liars. They just lie all the time about everything.
But there's a way
The descent into confusion begins not with policy, but with the man himself, a figure relentlessly accused of being a pathological liar whose fabrications stretch from his military service to global events, weaving a tapestry of falsehoods. Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly, armed with receipts, didn't pull punches. They laid bare Walz's alleged pathological lying, revealing a pattern far beyond minor embellishments. This is a man who reportedly claimed to have been in Tiananmen Square during the tragic student massacre, only to later backtrack, admitting he was merely in Hong Kong at the time. The audacity of such a claim, designed to craft a narrative of profound understanding and heroism, a supposed personal awakening to the sacredness of democracy, sets a deeply disturbing precedent for someone in public office. It wasn't just a misremembered date, it was a calculated attempt to craft a heroic narrative where none existed, and it doesn't stop there. Accusations surfaced of him exaggerating his role as a head coach of a football team when he was, in fact, merely a water boy, or claiming he deployed at war when the reality was far less dramatic, merely serving in the military. These aren't just slips of the tongue from a forgetful mind. They paint a chilling picture of someone who habitually crafts an alternate reality for public consumption, a habit that raises profound questions about trust. Why such a desperate need to invent a past, to distort facts, to continually redefine his own narrative? The question hangs heavy, hinting at a deep-seated insecurity or a cynical manipulation of public trust. But the lies weren't just about his past. They shaped his leadership, leading to a state of profound policy chaos that left Minnesotans scratching their heads.
They bring in her, and they bring in this other guy who's radical from Minnesota. That's the vice president, who he believes a lot of wild things. One of them is transgender surgery for people who are under 13. Another one is abortion up until 9 months.
Ooh.
Yeah. He changed the Minnesota state flag to make it look like a Somali flag. That stuff scares the fuck out of people.
Fallout continues for Tim Walz on the disastrous performance he delivered, in particular when it comes to his self-described knuckle-headed behavior. This one was that he was in China when the Tiananmen Square disaster unfolded, when hundreds of people were killed.
I have my dates wrong. I was in Hong Kong and China in 1989. That move from Hong Kong into China, it was profound for me. That was the summer of democracy. I said it's where I understood how sacred democracy was. It's what encouraged me about 15 back and forth with my students. Taking them to China. I speak like everybody else speaks. I need to be clear. I will tell you that. I do understand China a hell of a lot better than Donald Trump. Kamala Harris understands China.
The excuse for his lies, Michael, is I speak like everybody else.
Once in power, Walz seemingly adopted a governance strategy best described as Sim City on hard mode with the controller unplugged. A bizarre, almost improvisational approach where no one seemed to have a blueprint. His handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, for instance, became a masterclass in inconsistency and knuckleheaded behavior, earning him the nickname Brainfog in a suit. One week, it was all stay home, stay safe, enforcing strict lockdowns that crippled small businesses and isolated families. The very next, it was a bewildering shift to come on out, we believe in you, as if the virus was waiting for an invitation to leave like an awkward party guest. Joe Rogan mused it was like watching a man try to perform brain surgery with a selfie stick. Utterly chaotic and destined for disaster. But the true test of his leadership came with the Minneapolis riots, where chaos rolled through the streets like a demolition derby hosted by anarchists. The city was on fire, businesses were looted, and law enforcement, meanwhile, vanished like a magician's assistant, leaving the city in disarray. Captain Empathy, as he was dubbed, held bewildering press conferences where he stared into the camera like a substitute algebra teacher who just realized he walked into a biology class. He mumbled vaguely about healing and community gardens while his state burned, displaying a stark image of a leader adrift, unable or unwilling to grasp the reins of control. It was a level of detachment that stunned even seasoned observers. And if you thought his pandemic response and public safety failures were concerning, wait until you hear about his social agenda, which truly pushed the boundaries of public acceptance.
He was 100% right with Tim Walz.
Saying on my phone, I know some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping.
I mean, that guy was almost the vice president of the United States. I'm sure you've seen that thing where it shows Obama saying, I need a vice president that's dumber than me.
And
then it's Biden, and
I think I was saying that
I need a vice president dumber than me.
Great.
And it's Kamala, and Kamala saying, I need a vice president dumber than me. And it's Walz.
This is why
men have tampons.
Yeah.
I used to think the Democrats were crazy for saying that men have periods, but then I met Tim Walz.
Doug Brunt, my husband, he doesn't react to that much in the news. And so when it gets his attention, I know that something's gone either very right or very wrong. And he did not like this clip from Tim Walz reacting to the Taylor Swift news. Watch.
Taylor Swift signed childless cat lady. I have to get your response to that, Mr. Governor.
All those things, I am incredibly grateful, first of all, to Taylor Swift. I say that also as a cat owner, a fellow cat owner. Look, Swifties, you heard it. We know that it's there. That was eloquent, and it was clear. And that's the type of courage we need in America to stand up.
And my husband said he looks like Elmer Fudd. That's what he looks like, Elmer Fudd. Like there's something off about this guy.
Perhaps the most alarming revelations concern Walz's radical social policies, which ignited a firestorm of controversy across Minnesota, fundamentally altering the social landscape. This is a governor who championed mandating tampons in boys' bathrooms, even for children as young as the 4th grade. The very idea sparked outrage, leading many to question the rationale behind such policies, seeing it as an absurd overreach into childhood and a distortion of basic biology. biology. But it goes further. He fervently supports transgender surgeries for people under 13, pushing medical interventions on minors before they can fully comprehend the irreversible consequences. And chillingly, accusations surface that his administration intends to take children away from parents who won't approve these life-altering gender transitions, effectively stripping parents of their fundamental rights to make decisions about their own children's well-being. This isn't just about policy, it's about state control versus parental autonomy, a conflict that has left families terrified and deeply divided. Adding to this unsettling picture is his administration's repeal of a law requiring life-saving care for babies born alive after attempted abortions. This shocking move gained national attention when statistics revealed a horrifying truth. 24 such babies were born alive in Minnesota between 2015 and 2023, only to be denied care due to the repealed law. Beyond these profound social shifts, Walz's policies also carried a staggering financial cost for the average citizen. He's been a proponent of offering driver's licenses, free tuition, and even free health insurance for undocumented immigrants, initiatives that, as Megyn Kelly pointed out with exasperation, are funded by the taxpayers, raising serious questions about fiscal responsibility and who ultimately bears the burden of these free services. These aren't just concerning policy choices, they're fundamental shifts that provoke fear, division, and a sense of betrayal, even extending to the state's very symbols.
Radical from Minnesota, that's the vice president, who he believes a lot of wild things. One of them is transgender surgery for people who are under 13. Another one is abortion up until 9 months.
Ooh.
Yeah. Obviously, there's reasons why people medically would, like, if the woman's life is in danger, if the child has something wrong, it's not going to live. There's reasons why they choose to do things like that. But that stuff's scary.
To brand Governor Walz moderate and a representation of middle America, that's not true. He's not moderate. Driver's licenses for illegals, check. Free tuition for illegals, check. Free health insurance, free that is, for illegals, check. Who pays for that again? Does Governor Walz just like draft an imaginary check from an imaginary pot of money? Oh wait, no, it's the taxpayers. He's all for teenagers undergoing life-altering gender surgeries. And by the way, he wants to take your child away from you if you won't okay them. He supports putting tampons in the boys' bathrooms for kids as young as the 4th grade.
War. You didn't. Why are you saying you deployed at war? The weapons you used in war? No. You were in war. Like, oh, you were a head coach? No, you weren't a head coach. You were the water boy.
Yeah.
The fuck are you talking about?
I thought some of that was weird.
Well, he's just a liar. But that's what a lot of these people are. They're just actors who are ugly. And they're like, well, I can't really make it in show business. And I want a lot of attention. And I want to be a special person. So I'll do politics. I'm good at bullshitting.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, they're trusting. They're like, oh, he's saying the right things. If you say the right things, abracadabra. And then next thing you know, you're a fucking governor.
Yeah.
Indeed, Walz's tenure hasn't just been about policy changes, it's been about a wholesale reshaping of Minnesota's identity, perhaps most visibly through the controversial change of the state flag. The new design immediately drew sharp criticism, with countless Minnesotans noting its striking resemblance to the Somali flag, sparking accusations of cultural erasure. This move, framed by the administration as an evolution towards a more diverse and inclusive state, was perceived by many as a deliberate attempt to erase historical identity and impose a new cultural narrative without widespread consensus or respect for the state's existing heritage. It sparked deep divisions, with constituents wondering whose culture was truly being represented and whose was being deliberately marginalized. This wasn't merely an aesthetic choice. It was seen by many as a symbolic act of allegiance to a radical agenda that prioritized certain groups and ideologies over the long-standing heritage and traditions of the state. It further fueled the narrative that Walz was fundamentally altering Minnesota from within, alienating a significant portion of its population and leading to a sense of disconnect from their own state. While reshaping cultural symbols, his economic and environmental visions painted an equally bleak, almost dystopian future for Minnesota's residents and its natural resources.
Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. Vice President Kamala Harris delivered her closing message last night at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C. A brief, scripted, of course it was. Whose words were these? Whose thoughts were these? Whose promises were these? Speech where she urged all Americans to, quote, stop pointing fingers and start locking arms. Oh, by the way, Trump is Hitler. It's like the same as Joe Biden after he was inaugurated. I will be a unifier. I am looking for unity. Trump is Hitler. And no sooner had she ended her remarks.
Tim Walz is out there talking again.
These are bad guys, though. These are bad guys.
Did you say you could fight any Trump supporter?
Yeah, he says he'd kick their ass. And
I think I could kick most of their ass. I do think that.
They're scared of him because he could fix a truck.
I think I scare him a little bit why they spend so much time on that.
They're threatened by his masculinity. I know how to fix a truck.
No, I'm serious because I can fix a truck. They know I'm not bullshitting.
Do you? I bet you don't.
How do we push some of those guys back under a rock? You don't think it's racism and misogyny?
I bet if I bring a broken truck to you and a bag of tools, you're
The economic and environmental policies under Governor Walz have been described as a desperate attempt to patch a sinking ship with duct tape, a strategy akin to putting duct tape on a leaky dam while handing out coupons to the canoe rental store. While businesses across the state were dying faster than Tim's credibility, struggling under mandates and an uncertain economic climate, Walz was out celebrating another grant program that paid consultants to explain why people didn't want to work anymore. Spoiler alert, they were broke. The actual jobs and livelihoods seemed secondary to abstract initiatives. On the energy front, he declared war on reliable electricity, like it personally insulted his family, pushing for costly, inefficient alternatives that left the state vulnerable. Minnesota winters are cold enough to make your soul shiver, but Walz was like, what if we made it colder, but for equity? He practically begged people to invest in unreliable wind turbines while simultaneously freezing them out of their own homes. A true testament to his baffling priorities. If irony were a power source, Minnesota would be a nuclear plant by now, buzzing with the absurdity of it all. And let's not forget his transportation miracle. Walz decided what Minnesota really needed was more trains. Not working ones, just the idea of trains. Trains that cost billions, went nowhere, and seemed to run solely on vibes. Meanwhile, roads crumbled, potholes grew sentient, swallowing tires whole, and cyclists started commuting on prayer and shoulder shrugs, navigating a disintegrating infrastructure. Joe Rogan couldn't stop laughing, utterly baffled, declaring, "This dude's infrastructure plan is like a 12-year-old describing a treehouse to his parents. All vision, no blueprint, and duct tape holding the dreams together." With such a track record of policy disasters, one might hope for clarity and strength in communication, but Walz's public persona proved equally perplexing, adding to the state's woes.
Walz out there to be sort of man of the people, you know, in his flannel and like a real regular working class guy, like a teacher you can relate to. And the latest effort was him this weekend, like working on his car. He's just like a guy who works on the car and kicks the engine around. Here is a bit of an ad. This is an ad showing him working on this car. Watch.
Everything works on here, except one thing I'm still tinkering with, cruise control. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. At the same time, we talk about creating an opportunity economy so that
he believes a lot of wild things. One of them is transgender surgery for people who are under 13.
So for those out there who are wondering, aren't there something else you could be doing or doesn't seem to impact you in your life? This is what it means to show empathy. This is what it means to be welcoming.
He changed the Minnesota state flag to make it look like a Somali flag. You haven't seen that?
But our current flag is problematic. I think we all know that. We've evolved into a more diverse state, and I think it's more reflective of
If leadership demands clear, compelling communication, then Tim Walz offers a masterclass in how to say nothing for 40 minutes while speaking constantly. His speeches often sound like playing Mad Libs with a broken HA sketch, making even a simple announcement about recycling sound like a poorly translated IKEA instruction manual. He throws out terms like equity, innovation, and resilience, like he's playing political bingo in a wind tunnel, but none of them mean anything when the city looks like the set of a Mad Max sequel. Megyn Kelly, wielding sarcasm like a chainsaw at a Build-A-Bear workshop, shredded him for this, observing that Walz sounds like he's trying to be both Gandhi and Bob Ross while delivering bad news. Rogan chimed in with the ultimate burn. Tim Walz is the human version of an expired granola bar. Looks fine on the outside, makes you sick if you consume too much. His attempts to appear as a man of the people, like his recent ad showing him working on his car in flannel, only highlighted a glaring inauthenticity, striking viewers as a staged charade rather than genuine connection. He looks like he wandered out of a Home Depot and accidentally became governor during a raffle, radiating a beige energy that could camouflage perfectly in a khaki warehouse. His own husband, Doug Brunt, watching a clip of Walz reacting to Taylor Swift news, famously likened him to Elmer Fudd, remarking that there's simply something off about this guy. This consistent pattern of gaffes and missteps, combined with a seemingly unshakable aloofness, culminates in a leadership style defined not by problem solving, but by an active avoidance of accountability, leaving Minnesotans feeling unheard and unrepresented. Ultimately, Tim Walz's entire political career seems to hinge on a remarkable ability to sprint in the opposite direction of accountability. Every problem is conveniently shifted. Everything is either the fault of the last administration, systemic complexity, or even Mercury being in retrograde. He has amassed more excuses than a high schooler who forgot his homework and spilled Mountain Dew on the dog. And every time someone dares to challenge him on his disastrous record, he performs the classic waltz two-step, smile awkwardly, mumble, "We're working on it," and then vanish into the fog of government jargon like Batman disappearing into a PowerPoint presentation. Megyn Kelly summed it up perfectly. Tim Walz governs like he's trying not to get caught. His playbook consists of hashtags, half measures, and a playlist of Coldplay songs to cry to after every press conference. And the profound irony of it all, this is a man obsessed with unity. He talks about bringing people together like he's hosting a family reunion no one RSVP'd to, yet his version of unity involves alienating half the state while hugging a wind turbine and yelling about empathy over Zoom. Rogan said it best. Tim Walz wants to lead a kumbaya circle in the middle of a burning building. Megyn Kelly, ever direct, doesn't even bother sugarcoating it. The guy couldn't unify a box of crayons. So here we are, a state rich in lakes, culture, and resilience, now ruled by a man who thinks leadership is an improv game where nobody gets to yell "scene." Joe Rogan roasted him like he was toasting marshmallows over the dumpster fire of Walz's bewildering decisions. Megyn Kelly served sarcasm like hors d'oeuvres at the political apocalypse. And Tim Walz, he just stood there blinking slowly, wondering if maybe next time he could lead by consulting a magic 8 ball instead. The journey of Tim Walz reveals not just a politician, but a perplexing figure whose tenure has left an entire state questioning its very future, trapped in his coloring book of contradictions, just trying not to get scribbled into oblivion.